Welcome to this episode of the Contractor Commute. My name is Drew, here with Ben Walsh, and we are going to talk today about how to build a reliable team of subcontractors.
Yes, we are.
So building a team of subcontractors is essential to getting the job done, especially if you're a GC or you've working your way up towards that as well. So talk to me about just the importance in your mind, Ben, of having that team.
Yeah, and no downplay to the guy that is the subcontractor. Give us your feedback on what it's like being the sub. Is this the stuff you're looking for from your GC? So yeah, why do we need it? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I've been on both sides of this. I've employed subcontractors. I've been the subcontractor. And in order to actually have an efficient project, get stuff done, and really down the road, you need to have guys that serve you well. And if these aren't, if you don't treat guys right, and if you're not in a spot where you're attracting the guys you want on a team, I think you have a problem, right? If you're a GC and being at the top of their list as opposed to near the bottom, when you call and they're like, well, I don't really want to work for this guy, you're going to have a hard time really getting jobs done.
Right.
And keeping your clients happy.
Yeah. I think when you, and to be clear, everyone does have a list, right? People I'd rather work for, you know? And if certain people are going to have an unofficial VIP status in my phone when they call, I'm going to prioritize their work over other people's work.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. I might not tell you that, but that we all have that.
Yes.
So knowing that, your subs are going to have, you want to be on that list, especially your good subs, high end on their list of how they're treated, how you communicate, how you pay, when you pay, the type of work that it is. Those are the types of things that probably help you get up on that list. And so, but as you're building it out, you want the best subs prioritizing your work. And that it's going to help you obviously get work done faster, be more profitable, help you keep your commitments to your customers as well. And also, lock in a level of quality of work too. You know what you're going to get from certain guys. And you want those guys, treating your work like it's theirs,
So true. Yeah. And there's many times where there's a misalignment in your subcontractor, and we can talk about some of the things that really make when do you call it good with a subcontractor and say, I'm not going to work with that guy? Or when do you help them level up? When do you need to set expectations so they can do better? I think that's a big aspect of it as well. I've had situations where a sub didn't perform to my expectations, but after communicating, saying, hey, this is a job where this is the quality standard, preferably up front, so you're not in a situation later where the customer's unhappy because your subcontractor messed something up or didn't really have the quality of work that they expected. Yeah. So really having all of that stuff defined for your subcontractors is super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and just communicating, right? I mean, we talked this in the previous episodes, but a lot of times when if someone doesn't meet your expectation or, they're not responding well, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I got to find a new guy for this. Like, I can't keep coming back to the same sub because it's just, they're not meeting my expectations. They're slow, they're late, communication, whatever, they're messy, whatever it is. A lot of times what happens, if you're the sub, you got fired and no one ever told you. All of a sudden your phone just stopped ringing. It's because, there wasn't communication. You're already starting to look for somebody else.
It's painful, right? I mean, I don't want to be the person that points out somebody else's flaws. It's painful, sometimes we don't like to hear it ourselves. So I think we have that framework when we approach other people and say, well, I don't want the reaction either. It might be the other worry of just say this guy blows up at me if I point something out. But I think in order to have great subs, you really have to practice candor and really have great communication with these guys and not be afraid to just address hard things. Yeah. Just had a conversation with somebody the other day and just it was with one of our vendors and just communicated this was something that I didn't like. In a nice way. It didn't need to be nasty, but just I would like this thing to change. Just want to give you guys some feedback on that. Yeah. And they were very respectful, very responsive to that and said, yeah, thanks for pointing it out. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you'll find with a lot of subcontractors. Yeah. It's not the blow up reaction, particularly when we phrase it in the win for that. But I think that's really crucial. Yep. As we think about whatever we need, how can that be a win for our subcontractor? Yeah,
because even when you're giving that feedback, like, hey, like I'm considering going a different guy going forward because of X, Y, Z, whatever the issue is. Even if they do blow up, that kind of tells you, all right, well, that confirms my my deal. If I got to find a new guy, I got to find a new person to do this for me. But if they don't, I think what you'll often find is you'll actually find an appreciation for the candor, for the hey, thanks for shooting me straight, thanks for not BSing me, and you can actually build in that loyalty where it's like, hey, you know what? got feedback, found a way to get better and keep earning this guy's respect and trust.
Yeah. And I'd caution the threat too of like, hey, if this doesn't change, I need to find somebody else, as opposed to how do we make that feel like a win for that guy as well? Like, what's the impact to him down the road if he implements this suggestion in his business?
Yeah.
Is he going to have better quality work, better margins, better customer satisfaction, which just helps him level up?
Yeah.
So how can we be a part of that experience for this guy that maybe just completely blind to it? And just by pointing it out, isn't it? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Particularly when it's not all about us.
Yeah.
So making things a win for the other guy is so crucial. I mean, I've had moments where obviously the problem I was trying to address affected me.
Yeah.
That's why I was talking about it. So if I framed it from my perspective, it's harder to relate to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just life.
Yeah.
We frame the conversation from our perspective. Sometimes we don't even get it. But if we try to think from their perspective and say, hey, when you left the job a mess the other day, I didn't appreciate that, and the client was mad at me, suddenly they're on the defensive.
Right.
So they're trying to explain to the reason why it ended up happening that way, or they got a new guy or whatever, as opposed to being like, you know what, I love when the job site's clean and the customers have expressed how much they appreciate that. Hey, yesterday you guys might have had an off day, but there are these things that maybe you guys want to address. Just want to let you know that because, this, I know we're all pulling for making people happy.
Yeah. And
so suddenly they see the benefit of that, saying, hey, I made my GC happy, made their client happy, which made them a hero. Mm-hmm. Just by pointing that out, it's a positive thing for them. I think they feel like they're winning.
Yeah. It is a positive. And you think through, like, if you're a GC, maybe you've got multiple people who work on jobs for you. If you're, doing a lot of business at the same time. Mm-hmm. If I'm the sub, I have my way of doing it. Mm-hmm. I've got a single way of how I do a job, maybe how I communicate, how I price, how I do these things. I might not know that that's less than optimal way of doing it. And that other guys in town are actually either communicating better or pricing more transparently or keeping job sites cleaner or whatever. And so sometimes that feedback actually helps me understand, there is a better way and there is a higher standard. Mm-hmm. And I can do that, So again, I think, if you position it as a win, you're actually helping them level up, and I think people respect that, because the alternative is you just cold shoulder them, right? Yeah. And that's what happens all the time, right? Where I just stop answering your calls. I just don't return your text message anymore. And you slowly just get cut off. And you're like, wait a minute, now I'm just not getting work from that guy anymore. What happens? Mm-hmm. And there's no actual communication because you just move on, and that's not really a win,
No.
For really anybody.
No. And you're burning bridges unnecessarily in some respect as well, where you're either by coming to somebody forcefully and saying, listen, you son of a gun, you left the job a disaster. What kind of a jackass does that? I mean, you just clean, that kind of, somebody just, I don't have to deal with that. There's plenty of work. Yep. Hang up on you and never hear from the guy again. You burned a bridge.
Yeah.
And so.
But you didn't have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a coaching situation. It was calling them out on something.
Yeah.
Now, there are moments when if there's a character issue, somebody's disrespectful to a client, depending on the severity of that, you might just need to call it good with somebody.
Yeah.
If it's severe enough of just saying, I can't have you on my job site.
Yeah.
So you can't be afraid of those moments either.
Right.
If there's a deep character flaw, you probably need to call it good with somebody.
Yeah. And I think it's, you can maintain a great reputation in town and in the community of contractors and builders without being a jerk.
Yes.
And while still maintaining a high standard,
yes.
Because your reputation matters.
Mm-hmm.
It just does in the community. Successful people have a good reputation. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean they're pushovers, but it means that they're known for character, qualities, those sorts of things that are important. And I think, maintaining that is important. And you don't want a bunch of burned bridges around town. Because you don't know who you're talking to. Right. You never know what kind of connections will help you out later. So
when we're vetting a subcontractor, this guy's got the character. He's got the, he really wants to please. This. I mean, you understand this guy's got the core of what you need in the subcontractor. Maybe he doesn't have the quality of work. Maybe he doesn't understand how to price things appropriately. Maybe there's a few things off that just aren't quite right. But this guy you can coach him to the next level, or you can work with him. That's the kind of guy you want to keep happy.
They have the stuff that you can't teach.
Yeah.
Right. Like they want to do well.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that when you got a guy like that, you're not dickering about the price. Yep. You want to be able to say, that's a fair price. I want to take care. I've had a couple of subcontractors where one guy in particular was underpriced all the time. And I felt bad for him. He'd always come in and just be, well, bud, that's about $200 for that. And he spent half a day out there. And I'm thinking, how does he drive his truck out there, bring his tools and material, and charge me $200 for this little repair? I mean, there's just no way you can be making money on that.
Yeah.
and to just help him even in that scenario. It's in my short-term advantage to say, great, $200, here you are.
Yeah.
But in my long-term advantage, I'm actually doing myself a disservice because he did a fantastic job. He's reliable. He's responsive. I need to make sure he can succeed as a business.
Right.
Because I want him around long term. So I'm saying, no, that job is actually worth more than that.
Yeah.
That should be $350.
Right.
So here you are. Here's $350. So
and talking about the loyalty that builds you. I mean,
yeah.
You just became on that subcontract. You just got on his VIP list. When Ben's asking me for work, I prioritize.
I've had moments when I wasn't on the hero list. I mean, it comes down a lot of times in those scenarios where there was a misalignment from the beginning of the job where I didn't set it up right. Didn't communicate clearly what I wanted out of that subcontract. It was just, well, let's see what happens here. I wasn't involved enough in the process on the early end, or delegated it. And I think as soon as there's that lack of specificity, what does Ben actually want? Then when they don't know, they're just going to do it to whatever standards they thought they should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And suddenly, if I'm calling them out on it and saying, hey, listen, you should have done better with this, or I expect this differently, how are they supposed to know that?
Right.
So it's not on them, it's on me.
You gotta be clear.
Yeah.
One thing we talked about too is, it goes back to knowing their capabilities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you signing them up for the,
yes.
Is it a job they're set up to do well on just from the capability set?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you run into times where you had a customer or a job where you knew somebody just didn't have the capability to do it right, or do it to the standard the customer expected?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It happens quite frequently. And I think that's sometimes where you need to vet your subcontractor ahead of time and maybe put them on a job where you don't have as much of a expectation or demand for quality. Mm-hmm. I've had moments where even in the painting field, everyone seemed to be capable of painting by their own standards. But if I needed something done really high end, you want to be able to let somebody know, here's the kind of jobs I'd like to be able to do. And I'm going to try you out on this one. Yeah, maybe it doesn't look like this house needs to have a high quality paint job, but this is what I'd really like to see here, because the next one is going to be that. So, and even letting them know that. Mm-hmm. So this is a test.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you're capable of. No offense. I mean, if they're not able to do it, just like, this is the kind of job that I'd like to be able to see you do. And, and sometimes it doesn't work. I've had a couple moments where somebody comes through a job and they're just like, you never want to see them again.
Yeah.
Afterwards. Yeah. But I want to be careful I don't burn a bridge there either.
Right.
But it's like, okay, and what can I point out, and constructive feedback to them as well? And maybe it's not a good fit for me at all, but still I can be helpful to them on the way out. Yeah. I mean, like, here's what I did appreciate, here's what I didn't. And in no sense, running somebody down on the way, while they're down, right? I mean, running them over while they're down, I guess.
Yeah. Never helps.
It's tempting to do.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about loyalty over price before. What does that mean to you, loyalty over price?
Well, somebody needs to know that you care about them as a subcontractor, I think, and it goes a long way towards making sure that they don't feel the pressure of getting pricing right up front for you, or feeling like you're going to be that demanding person on the tail end that says, listen, you bid it wrong, you're going to eat it. And if somebody is saying, hey, I think this is what this should cost, my job is to actually make sure that I understand his industry well enough to say, that's a pretty fair price. I need to add a little bit of margin in there because he might not have priced that for a mistake. He might not have figured in something else. So I need to actually do some due diligence on my side, understand his trade well enough to actually cover for him. Because if I don't have the margin to sort of help him out, I'm in a position where now the price really matters to the point of hurting a relationship.
Yeah.
And I've had people come back to me and say, I said that, but here's where I'm at with it. And they need to feel that ability to say they did their best, they worked hard, but that relationship matters more than $100 or $1,000 at the end of the day. I really want to take care of this guy. And if he feels that from me and he sees that, where even maybe I'm making the sacrifice saying, wow, I mean, that's more than I budgeted for this, but I want to take care of you. That can hurt you as a business if you're not set up to do that. So loyalty over price is we're saying on the relationship, when all the other boxes are checked, this is the guy I want to work with. He has the character and the skill I want to work with. I'm going to really make sure to take care of that.
Because he's, even if it costs you a little money here and there, he's saving you a lot of time and consistency and knowing, hey, the job's done right.
Yeah. Do we really quantify the cost of finding a subcontractor in this all as well? I mean, sometimes we just look at cost per square foot.
Yeah.
Well, the 50 cents you saved and cost per square foot, how much does that actually cost you maintaining that relationship over the long term and making sure that that guy was treated well? I mean, you got to find somebody else, and I mean, the cost to you over a project and 10 projects, I mean, can add up.
Yeah. You kind of got, I always think like you have 3 bank accounts. You have your money, sure. You also have your time and your energy, and some guy might be saving you a few bucks on your money, but he's costing you a lot more time and a lot more energy. Maybe that energy is expressed through worry or having to drive to a site to double or triple check something, or follow up 3 or 4 times instead of just once. That's costing you time, it's costing you energy, and maybe it's saving you a little bit of money, but is it worth it?
Yeah.
For some people, it's worth paying a premium to say, hey, I'm not going to have to follow up with this guy, and I'm not going to have to double check the work because I know what I'm going to get, and it's worth the premium to me.
Yep. And call it out when you have that scenario where a guy did well. Phrase the things you want replicated. Saying, this is the thing I like. For me, in a remodel context, did a ton of remodeling. When something was clean, a subcontractor kept a site clean to whatever extent they did. That was huge for me because that's what the customers would see at the end of the day. They would walk through a site, and if it was a disaster, it's a big frustration.
Yeah.
So getting my entire team working towards that goal, calling it out, super important. It's memorable.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever say anything to you, say thanks for the compliment, but it's impactful.
It does. Yeah. You'll get what you celebrate.
Yeah.
True. And if you celebrate it, you'll get more of it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to get an attaboy, whether it's from whether your boss, your contractor, your GC, your customer, like a good job goes much further than people realize.
Yeah.
Talking about paying on time. And I think if you're the GC or the sub, what's the expectation? What are some good basic business practices on just how you talk about price, how you pay in that transaction?
Yeah, and obviously this is a little bit outside the scope of the conversation of just building a reliable team of contractors today. But if you're not in a position as a business to pay on time, it puts you in a spot of bother trying to maintain a healthy team of subcontractors. And you'll burn bridges, burn relationships by not having that in place. I've had, unfortunately, situations where that's happened in my business where there's a trickle-down effect. Somebody's holding a payment for me. I'm holding a payment to my subcontractor or a vendor because, $60,000, $70,000 that I'm waiting on, they're not paying yet. Yeah. And so setting projects up appropriately, staying on top of my billing as a general contractor is essential to making sure I'm paying on time. And when it works well, I've had moments, many times where it's just somebody sends an invoice, that check gets cut. A lot of times I'm even cutting a check to an inconvenience to try to take care of somebody. He's asking for a payment same day. I'm done with that. Can I get a check? It's a little bit of a flag saying, that guy's not making money, or that money's going somewhere, or he's in a spot of bother. How can I help coach him to make sure his margins are right? What's he spending his money on for his business too? Not to get too overly in the weeds of managing their side of it, but nonetheless, it is a red flag. Right. When somebody's so hungry. I remember having one painter where every single day it was, can I get another check? Can I get a deposit on tomorrow? And it was, what's going on here? That's not good. And I just let him know, no, that's not how we operate. Checks are cut every Friday. Sometimes I can help somebody with an advance, but communicating what to expect, I think, is important too. Yeah. Just saying, hey, if it's every week, if it's every month, it's every 2 weeks, letting your subs know this is the schedule. Here's when we make a concession. Yeah. And make sure you got the cash to cover it. Right. And really, when those client situations, I shouldn't have had a situation when somebody owed me $70,000. Work should have stopped. I shouldn't have been owing somebody. So that means it's a lesson to me. Right. If I'm in a spot where I'm not able to pay a bill because somebody's not paying me.
Exactly.
That's my problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. I think it's where, you always got to stand the up and up. And that's part of, what we're trying to do with ConGenius even is just helping people stay on top of their books. How do you bid smart? How do you propose smart? How do you make sure that, you're dealing with the facts of the situation of your business?
How do you cover for mistakes?
Yeah.
Inevitably you need to bid with enough margin where one mistake's not putting you out of business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inevitably they will happen.
They will happen.
Yeah.
They will happen. I've yet to achieve perfection. I don't know if you've gotten there yet, but
no, long ways off.
I still mess up. Right. Cool. So let's talk about this. What if, For the subcontractors who are listening, we kind of, your feedback would be great. If you're someone who's listening to this right now, whether it's on, YouTube or podcasts, just any comments on what do you expect? What are things that you expect from your contractor? What are, we talked about getting paid. We talked about relationship. We talked about clear communication, expectations, just being nice,
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Prompt communication. From a subcontractor, what are, I wonder if there's things that you would like to see more from your general contractor. Like leave us a comment, leave us a note. Be interested to get additional feedback.
One thing I thought was really impactful to subcontractors when I made the time, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, just to be able to send them a note. This is how much I appreciate what you've done. And we couldn't achieve what we have without you, and not in an artificial monetary way, but like these projects to point to and point things that we're grateful for.
Yeah.
And not just once a year, but throughout the year as we're working on things, as we can call out moments like that. These guys work really hard.
Yeah.
And if I'm a GC and I'm employing a lot of guys,
your success is,
I need him.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't get things done without it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially the larger you get, the more deep those relationships go. Losing one can cost you big time.
Yeah.
And so, people want to work for somebody they like, likability matters. I don't want to work for someone I don't enjoy working with.
Absolutely.
Or don't feel appreciated by.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
That's great stuff. And any general contractors out there, would love the feedback there. What have you found that works with your subcontractors?
Yeah.
What are the hacks? What are the tips here as well, so we can all level up together here?
Yeah, totally. Ways you're keeping great subcontractors around.
Yeah.
Especially maybe highly competitive markets. What are ways you're building loyalty with your guys? So cool. All right, that's a wrap this episode on how to build a reliable team of subcontractors. So thanks for tuning into the Contractor Commute. We will catch you guys next time.